Hello, how the hell are you?
Good, how are you?
Awesome.
And we've got no interest. Yeah. That's what I would be just making that very clear to them.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't, I wouldn't be, I mean, we've had something like 24. It is what it is.
Bowie,
Yo,
you just get better looking, mate. What's the secret?
mate, just I'm on the COVID prophylaxis, mate. Anti-COVID prophylaxis, quercetin, zinc, vitamin D, and low dose ivermectin.
Beautiful. Did you get a clause in the contract that Marcello can't be in the office at the same time you're in? I mean,
it's unnecessary because he's never in.
Yeah. He's the only bloke I know that takes a holiday from holiday.
Mate, he came back from fishing the next day. The same day that he went to golf with as well. So, I've never seen him. I've been here 3 weeks, never seen him.
So for anyone that doesn't know Marcello, Adrian's brother, is a very dear friend of mine. Been in Port Macquarie now for nearly 5 years. On the weekend, guess where he went when he knew I was in Sydney? And he was supposed to come to Sydney to see me at Palm Beach.
Yeah.
And on the weekend, guess where he turned up?
Port Macquarie.
Port Macquarie. Only your brother Marcello would do that. And it was upset that I wasn't here.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
How dare you organise without him letting him know? It's crazy.
Well, mate, he was booked in to come to Palmy with me. That's what I don't understand. But anyway.
Right. Crazy. How are you guys going? All good?
Mate, we're good, mate. I'm just letting everyone in, but mate, we for the Port Macquarie team, or not just Port Macquarie because it was all the other offices, but for the Port Macquarie region, the Hastings region, we had in-rooms the other night, and I've never been more proud of the team. So
really,
while everyone's on, I just want to thank everyone for their part in that, mate. We had people from probably 6 different offices there. We sold 12 from 14, 8 from 10 under the hammer. Energy was insane.
How good's that?
Yesterday, I went and saw 2 different vendors that just from seeing hearing about the auction night have decided to list with Elders Lifestyle Group. So,
that's the best. I reckon what got you over the line was Batesy's TikTok. Batesy on TikTok.
We got training, guys. We got training.
Don't you reckon, Dave?
Everything. 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%.
Batesy kills it on TikTok. Kills it.
Yeah, I know. It's
best dancer in the business.
Dave was on there.
Mate,
yesterday.
I appreciate the backup dancers. Not so much Batesy, but
he loves it.
Hey, mate, just a quick thing in the Sydney market. I'm hearing that there's a lot of stock come on the market, which is probably good for us because I'd imagine a lot of those people are thinking about coming up here.
Yeah.
But tell me, are you starting to see it drop off a little bit? And do you think that's just people are tired, COVID's finished, we're out, it's Christmas? Or do you think beginning of 22 we'll see a little bit of a softening Sydney market? What's the view?
Yeah, so it's not an arbitrary opinion or a gut feeling. It's purely based on objective metrics, which is the 3 main reasons that any market changes. And at the moment in Sydney, we're on the verge of the perfect storm for the trifecta. Now, when I say that, you're only talking probably about a 5 or 7% correction. But the 3 factors are, number 1, increased stock levels. I don't care what anyone says. The supply and demand ratio always determines what the market's doing. Number 2 is tighter credit. APRA have taken a very responsible approach to slow down the market by increasing that buffer rate between 2.5% to 3%, which effectively they've calculated will affect people's borrowing capacity by 5%. So that's completely objective and factual. The third one is the RBA have done a massive backflip, and instead of raising interest rates end of 2024, they said they're going to raise them end of 2022, which has already increased fixed rates, and variable rates will follow. So, you know, you've been doing it a long time, Dave. They're the three main factors, which is credit, increased stock, and higher interest rates, which affect the market. And we're on the precipice of all three of those. But again, it's not going to be catastrophic because the eastern suburbs is a very resilient market. But it would be naive to think that, let's assume the absolute peak of the market in Sydney within an inch of its life was 5 weeks ago. It would be naive to think that we're not going to see a 5 to 7% correction from that peak, but it'll be a very soft landing. And I think APRA's initiative and I think the RBA's initiative are actually very, very responsible ones, because, you know, you and I have both been involved in markets where we've experienced this hyper growth, not to the degree that we've seen, but then it's fallen off a cliff. So I think that those factors are actually quite good factors.
Cool. So guys, this is really good dialogue for our vendors, because obviously a Sydney peak is probably, I've been wanting this. I'll tell you the reason why I want Sydney to peak, because I think what's happened, if you owned a property in Sydney, my sister's house, for example, she bought it 7 years ago for $790. She just sold it this week for 2.33. But once Sydney people see that is the peak of the market, I think a lot of them are going to look around and go, okay, darling, now is the time for us to sell, and now the time for us to move up here. So I think it's going to be some really exciting times for our market. Cool.
I agree.
Market commentary is so important when we're speaking to our vendors. You can get so much respect to be able to have conversations like we've just had now. Mr. Bo, what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to talk about the whole myth of this attraction agent that you hear a lot of coaches and you know, other people in the industry talk about. I think the whole concept of an attraction agent is a bit of a misnomer and a bit mythical. Why I say that is, of course, if you can get to a point in your career where more people are calling you to go and praise their property than you have to call them, there's no doubt that that's ideal. Don't get me wrong. So that would be the closest definition of an attraction agent. But let me tell you this, every so-called attraction agent I know is also a high chase agent as well. So anyone who just simply relies on people calling them based on referrals and profile, they're not in that top 20% of the industry. They could call themselves, probably quite erroneously, attraction agents, but the ones that are in that top 20% club, which really earn 80% of the income, that's how fragmented our industry is, they're also very much chase agents, with, you know, being high tech, high touch, high hustle and high integrity. And when I say they're chase agents, I'm talking about multiple forms of success marketing and prospecting. So, you know, I'll give you an example. I had an agent call me from Adelaide the other day. I did a session with him, you know, a couple of years ago now, and he hasn't been in contact since, but he called me and he said, look, I've done everything you've told me to do, and I've got my database really clean. I'm prospecting every single day. You know, I'm putting in new data. I'm doing everything. But mate, I've hit a ceiling. I said, well, there's one thing you're obviously not doing, and that is success marketing. I said, what's your budget per year in personal marketing? He said, I don't have one. I said, well, of course you've hit a ceiling, right? So my formula for success marketing is not based on your previous GCI, but on your projected GCI. So to give you an example, if your projected GCI is $400,000, then for the first year, in order to get you in hyper growth mode, then you look at 10% of that, which is 40,000, divide that by 12, then your marketing budget is $3,000 a month. For the second year onwards, indefinitely, 5%, which is $1,500 a month. If you're not doing that, in addition, as another layer to your prospecting, you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve. So investing in yourself is 100% critical. And Dave, as you know, throughout my whole career, I was like a guided missile looking for, Is it the Ritz Cinema I can advertise in? Is it the gym? Is it a lead generation campaign? Is it Rate My Agent? Is it letterbox drops? Is whatever it is, I'm heavily investing in my business.
Adrian, mate, we don't actually have that culture in our biz. Like, there's mate, it'd be a small percentage of our team that actually spend personal money on marketing if we really want to call a spade a spade. So, mate, 10% or even $40,000 would be freaking a lot of the team out if we had a private one-on-one session. How do they actually move forward? How do they change that mindset? Well, how about if they say, you know what, I'm happy to write 400,000. I've written 400,000 for the last 2 years. Why should I spend the money, Adrian?
Well, because then you're constantly going to only be relying on 2 verticals as opposed to 7 verticals in order to generate business. So the 2 verticals you're going to rely on is prospecting. The second vertical you're going to rely on is referrals, right? Which is fine. I don't have an issue with that.
And are you happy with this comment to say the change of agent probably hasn't come up here, but it's definitely in Sydney. So if they're not doing that, the new breed of agent will overtake them, yeah?
1,000%. 1,000%. Yeah. So look, don't get overwhelmed when I say year 1, 10%, because as I said, I did say year 2 and beyond indefinitely 5%. So look, the numbers sound overwhelming, but I mean, if you think about it, okay, so say your projected income is 200 GCI, 20%, sorry, 5%, or 10% of that, is 20 grand. 5% of that is 10 grand a year, which is negligible. It's negligible when you think about it. I mean, the mindset that we need. So when you ask the question, how do you change the mindset? Okay, so the mindset is every single agent on this call is a business owner. You're not an employee, you're a business owner, right? Now, every business owner has a marketing budget, whether you're a cafe, whether you're an IT company, whether you're a restaurant, whether you're a laundromat, I don't care what you are, you have a marketing budget. So for you as business owners, building a brand within a brand and a business within a business, not to have a marketing budget is the same as not even having a bank account or a savings plan or anything. It's just insanity. So the fact that we're not reinvesting in ourselves, I think is a huge mistake.
Yeah. And the other thing too, I look at the Super 10 that sort of started McGrath, where you sort of had all the, people that have now moved on, Shannon and Ivan and, yourself and Pauline Goodyear and all that mob, Success breeds success. So if our whole team are spending that type of money, 5-10 grand on marketing a year, the lifestyle group just becomes a beast. Yeah. It just compounds on compounds.
I mean, absolutely. But more importantly, the individual agent will become a brand. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I love, whether it's Ray White, whether it's Elders Lifestyle Group, whether it's McGrath, let's face it, it's a platform. It's a platform for you to build your brand and for people to be attracted to you. And the best part about you guys is you've got one of the best platforms that out there. It's reputable, it's accessible, it's got high integrity values. It ticks every single box. It's survived the test of time. You've had newer, flashier brands come and go, and then you've got Elders Lifestyle Group, which is reliable, honest, and high integrity. And then you, as an individual agent, start to build your own personal brand as another layer, and using things, even though I was saying facetiously about Greg Bates with TikTok, that is personal branding. I'll be honest with you, because I'm talking about it. If I'm talking about it, someone else is talking about it, right? And that's one of the verticals that I'm talking about. But there's so many, Dave. There's letterbox drops. There's RP data mail merge directly to absentee owners. There's Rate My Agent boosts. There's Facebook ads. There's a business at the moment going around, which I've just signed up to, called Get Listings. So have a look at that, getlistings.com, where you pay a fee per month, and through Facebook they generate some ads, and you get leads come through. There's another guy called Jordan Bain who does Facebook ads.
We're using him. We're using him now.
Yeah, good. The list goes on and on. You know, I've just signed up to Ramwick Chemist Warehouse shopper docket, which cost me like $2,000 a year because I'm going to be on every shopper docket for Harris Farm and Chemist Warehouse. So look, I've got an approach where I just try it. If it doesn't work, fine. But I know if I try as many things as possible, then I know some of them are going to work. But again, this is what we call an and strategy. It's not an or strategy. So you don't just rely on prospecting and referrals. And then, you know, symbiotically, you don't just rely on success marketing. You must do both. And that's how you create this ubiquitous profile in the market, which is working in combination, not just in isolation.
Yeah. So it's about you becoming that professional agent that we've been keep talking about, yeah?
Yeah, totally, mate, because what we've got to remember, Dave, is when you and I first joined the industry, and probably Batesy as well to a degree, it was very much a loyalty business, right? Let's face it, there was a lot of loyalty involved. So fast forward 20, 30 years, whatever it might be, today, as much as I really don't like it, it's partly loyalty, but mostly top of mind and awareness. Let's be honest, right? So you could have had an outstanding customer service experience with someone 7 years ago. And you would swear to yourself, if these people ever bought and sold, they'll definitely give me a call. However, if you haven't harnessed that contact, nurtured them in your database, and then created other subliminal touch points like we're just talking about, where they'll see a Facebook ad, where they'll drive past the office, they'll see you on TikTok, they get a DL card, they see a signboard, a sold stick, the list goes on and on and on, then frankly, you're going to be trumped by probably an agent with less experience, less integrity, with a more with probably an inferior brand. Not on all occasions, but unfortunately, you know, in 2021, that's the way the landscape looks like.
Cool. Mate, so you got high tech and high touch. Let's go through those two.
Yeah, so again, high tech, high touch is also what I call an and strategy. So what I'm afraid of is agents treating it as an or strategy, where they think, you know what, I'm going to just be the nicest agent, provide the best possible service, and I'm not going to do any form of digital marketing whatsoever, right? I don't really need to be on Facebook. I don't really need to do any videos. I don't really need to do EDMs to my database. I don't really need to do a newsletter. I don't need to use ActivePipe or whatever. And then you got the opposite, which is someone who is standing at an open house, just handing out a brochure and saying, "G'day, mate, how are you? There's a brochure, have a look around." And they're doing that, but then spending a fortune on promotion, but not offering good service, right? It's like it's what we call cognitive dissonance, where you're sort of doing something, expecting something else to happen. Like, it's just nuts, right? So you've got to do both. So, you know, I don't want the high tech, high touch to sound like a throwaway line. It's not. It's like there's a really important symbiotic relationship there where they must complement each other, and you got to do both. It literally is an and strategy, not an or strategy, because there are agents, as you recall, Dave, in the eastern suburbs, who literally are like that. They're arrogant, they're rude and open for inspections, they throw brochures to people, and then go and beg their sales manager and say, "Oh, I've got no listings, can you shout me 3,000 DL cards?" I'm like, dude, you just met 25 people at an open house, 4 of them own property, and you didn't even put them in your database, and in fact, you didn't show them any respect at all. So that's what I'm talking about there.
And the hustle, mate. Like, you know, I was lucky enough, you know, to see different people in Sydney when it comes to hustle. But, you know, like, I think Brendan copped it. I think Marty Farah got one off him. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Marty unfortunately doesn't do any of this other stuff. Well, he does have a personal brand, but like, the guy can fucking hustle when he's got a lead. You know, he can talk. So,
Yeah.
Let's talk about that hustle, because I mean what I'm sort of saying to the guys now, and is not to get caught up in whether we're number one. Let's just make as much money as we personally want to make. Let's make it as easy as possible, but let's have full intensity when we work, and people can feel that. And I love that word hustle. So, what's your view of hustle?
Okay, so hustle must be complemented with high integrity, because there's people that hustle without integrity. So that's a caveat that I'd like to disclose to everyone, that you've got to hustle with integrity, right? So hustle traditionally had a negative connotation to it. I don't think it does now, as long as you act with integrity. Now, you use an example of Martin Farrer. Now, that guy's someone, who's still a close friend of mine. He's been in the industry 35 years. And let me tell you, he doesn't put in the hours that a lot of agents do. But, I mean, the guy will write $2 million this year. And even just recently when we were working together, I showed him how to actually build an EBU and leverage off his actual profile. So, and he's doubled his business as a result. But one thing that he's unbelievable at, Dave, is if he identifies a listing opportunity, he will walk into that listing and he will be like a guided missile, not necessarily to talk about scripts and dialogues, not necessarily to show them any fancy material, but connecting basically he's gone from head to heart, if that makes sense. So he's connecting with the client, and he's genuinely fascinated, David. He'll say, "Oh, so you've got a Lebanese background or Italian background? Oh, great. Where are your family from? Oh, great." So I've been in a listing appointment with him, and for an hour, we haven't even mentioned anything about the house, nothing about auction, nothing about marketing, nothing about anything apart from taking a genuine interest in this person's story. And before you know it, turned around and the person proactively says, "You know what, Marty, I feel so comfortable with you. Tell me what your process is." You know what I mean? So they actually ask him, but they feel so comfortable. So one of the best I've seen, Dave, one of the best.
I've Arthur Purtis had the same thing. And I think, and I did a session with the trainee guys, or the guys riding under a certain level on Wednesday morning, and I talked about fear and greed and those two powers of those two feelings.
Yeah.
And the Arthurs and the Martys of the world, this is what I'm truly going to get across to the team, is nothing's done without it. It might look like he's just having a loose conversation, but everything Marty's doing is a full fucking strategy. Like, it's a full strategy
100%.
session.
100%.
And that is the difference that I want to get to our team is, if we think about real estate and we think about listing and we think about selling and we think about, dialogue, that'll get you to a certain point. But if you want to have real ease in this career and really love it, if we can really analyze every conversation, every strategy, build, I call about seed planning and building a tent inside people's heads. That's where the power is. And it's the power of influence. And it's a great subject. So when you talk about the power of influence, AB, what comes to you on that?
What comes to mind when I talk about that is being on purpose, which you'll hear Jeff Jout talk about a lot. And it's funny you say that, because when I got Jeff Jout to come into Farrah's when I was there, I thought Marty and Glenn and Jeff have to meet. These two guys are like kindred spirits, right? They both love golf. They're both on purpose, and they got on like a house on fire. So, and then I had a little meeting with them. And I said to Marty, just explain to Jeff, how you feel when you go to a listing appointment. He said, to be honest with you, there's nothing else. Firstly, there's nothing else I could see myself doing. Secondly, I actually absolutely love it and feel completely on purpose. Thirdly, even though I'm having an open conversation with the vendor, I'm actually really authentic about it and actually really care about their lives, their story, everything like that. And then fourth, what he said was, as a byproduct of that, I'm influencing the client to almost feel compelled to actually list with me, even though that's not what I'm focused on. So it just blew my mind. And, and also, as you know, Dave, John McGrath was also very much like that. If you went to a listing appointment, he would really peel back the onion layers and find out a little bit more about the person and build that rapport. So you don't need to be a 30-year veteran to do this, guys. Like, I'm teaching this sort of framework now to even associate agents. And initially it's a bit uncomfortable for them because, you know, they've read all the books and listened to all the tapes about scripts, dialogues, buyer pyramid and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, that's okay. But let me tell you, none of that means anything unless you've got a connection with the client and they like and trust you. Never underestimate affability and trust. So I really want everyone to make sure that building that rapport and that connection and that affability is really high up on your agenda with every buyer appointment, every listing appointment, even the tone of an email or the tone of a phone call or an SMS. It needs to have that type of connotation to it.
We've got some of the guys in the team that can be a little bit monotone just in there. I mean, it's just a natural thing, isn't it? Some of us are flamboyant in our voice. Some of us are a bit monotone. Have you worked with some people, and what's your coaching on that, AB?
Yeah, it's a good one. And look, you and I take it for granted, Dave, because we're auctioneers. So as auctioneers, our tonality is always, you know, very, very on point because we know when to slow it down. We know when to ramp it up. So it's actually something that you have to practice. I highly recommend if there's a Toastmasters in Port, I would 100% go to it. So I went to it too late and without sort of, pumping my own trumpet. By the time I got there, I actually already had the skill set. But when I went there, I was like, wow, I wish I came to this 5 years ago or 10 years ago because it's outstanding. So I don't know, is there a Toastmasters anywhere?
Yeah, I don't know if there is, but I actually did that course before I started auctioneering. And
there is?
Import.
Okay.
There is, yeah.
I would highly recommend. Now, you don't have to be an auction. This is for an agent. This is for you as an agent. I would highly recommend you go there. It's outstanding. You will be in front of your peers, and they'll give you a topic, and they'll train you on tonality. They'll train you on content. They'll train you on presentation, on body language. So I can do it on a one-on-one basis, but impossible to do in this group session. But certainly Toastmasters, if it's there, I would sign up. It's not expensive, and it's very, very good.
A good thing to do is actually do part of a listing presentation and tape yourself and then listen to yourself back. But I've done Toastmasters before. So guys, just to get something out of this today, because like we've talked about a lot of different subjects and really like we've done a lot of training, we've done a lot of coaching. We're always going to be going back to similar type sessions, but there's a lot in this, and it's about making sure that we compound our business to make sure that we've got different layers there. So what I'd like to do is everyone here is actually send myself an email. So just so I sort of know where we're all at. So the first point that we talked about is your ability to build rapport in a listing presentation. So we talked about that power of influence. Yes. And, what's it like? Do we feel really comfortable when we're in that living room? Are we, like I know Brendan's completely changed out of sight. Like I remember before he went to Sydney, me and him did a listing presentation. Yeah, I was like sitting next to a fucking robot. I've been to a listing presentation since now, and now Brendan's completely chilled and completely different. And when we're in a listing, it was the worst listing presentation in the world because we're so not in sync. We're now fully in sync to that. So building rapport, 1 to 10, guys, send me an email. Where do you think you are? Just open up your emails. Where do you think you are? Or write it on a bit of paper. From 1 to 10, your ability to build rapport.
Yeah.
Number 2, I want you to build from 1 to 10. How clean is your database?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Number 3, we talked about high touch. So our high touch, how well are we then going back through our database and communicating to our database?
Yep.
1 to 10. Guys, I'm really, really happy that we don't even need to answer the integrity part. We're really lucky with our team. We've got a high integrity team, and I thank you for that. So leave that one out. High tech, 1 to 10. That going into next year, I know I've got obviously help. So I jokingly said on the weekend, like if I don't start jumping back in on tech, I'm going to miss out. So, going into next year, what training do we need to do be next year? So high tech, where are we at with high tech? 1 to 10.
Also, what's your marketing budget going to be for the year, Dave?
Yeah. And then come back and then let's build that marketing, thing. And like I said to someone the other day, if you could buy a cafe in town for $100,000 that makes $500,000 a year. Would you buy it? And the person said, yeah. I said, so why wouldn't you just spend $100,000 on building your real estate career?
100%.
You know what I mean? You know, and that's what it is. And I mean, you know, Adrian's just moved over to Ray White to be with family, and you know, the Adrian Bo brand has moved a couple of times in the last couple of years, and business has followed because that's the platform, and that's what I mean, Adrian. I constantly work on making sure that we have the best platform here, that they don't want to move my platform because I'm not arrogant enough to think that Lifestyle Group builds their careers. They build their own careers. I just want this platform to be as easy as possible for them to build their career here, so they choose not to build it somewhere else, where a lot of other business owners think that it's them. But at the same point, for the agents, it's knowing that, you know, you tap into that platform. And of late, if you look at the people in our team that are performing the most, they just work with the platform. They don't push against it. And the people that haven't worked out or have left, they're always the people that push against it. So it's about combined synergies and combined energy, and that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, I agree. Now that's awesome, Dave. Well, certainly I'd love to thank you personally, Dave, and the entire group for the opportunity to work with you this year. I really hope that we can renew our relationship in the new year. And I do put it out there to everyone. And I don't just say this as a throwaway line, but if anyone needs to call or email me about anything whatsoever, please take me up on it. I'll always come back to you, and I'll always add value. And this is meant to be, again, an and strategy, and not getting in the way of what Dave does work with you, but just a phone call, whether it's headspace, deal support, process, whatever. Just feel free to do that anytime.
Cool. So just to finish off, guys, because I know we're nearly going to the end of the year and we start talking about next year. As I've always said, Arthur and I always did our most deals Christmas Eve. Like, there's still plenty of deals to be done. So keep completely switched on between now and the end of the year, but also in that quiet time, find that little bit of space to start planning for next year. And it's a bit of a crossover energy, but it's really important. If you're going to manage to start dreaming and planning for next year, but also finish this year off, you'll catapult into next year. So cool.
100%. And it'll be quite an anomaly this year as well, Dave, in the sense that the segue between 21 and 22 will be quite seamless, given that we've had so much restrictions during the year that I think people are going to be very keen to transact right up until Christmas Eve. That not many people will go overseas. They'll just have a local break. And then I reckon the first 10 days into the new year, you'll start getting the phones ringing off the hook again.
Yeah, we don't get the Eastern Suburbs Christmas break up here. It's game on. Yep.
That's what I'm saying. So it'll be you have your Christmas to New Year, bit of a rest, be on the phones, whatever. But I reckon there's a lot of deals to be done in December, January.
A 1,000,000%, buddy.
Yeah.
Hey, Adrian Bo, thank you for sharing, mate. I love it.
My pleasure.
And, I'm a little bit tired, mate. After this meeting, I spend the next hour in a thesaurus trying to understand what the fuck you said. But anyway.
Mate, I love it, bro. I've been up since 3 o'clock today. Mate, I've done 3 hours worth of emails. I've taken my dog for a walk. Mate, I've done already a couple of social media posts. I've got another session after this, mate. Listings, coaching. I love it.
Energy breeds energy, boys and girls. See you later.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.